I'm Cam McKinney. Welcome to this edition of the Head to Head Podcast. This is episode number 42 of the Head to Head Podcast. And in this edition of the podcast, I'm going to be talking all things about what went down between Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers. If some of you are not into basketball, you missed one of the biggest stories in sports last week. Magic Johnson has stepped down from his position in the Los Angeles Lakers. Maybe that's not that interesting, but it's the way he did it that's just out of this world insane. Like a half hour before the final home game at Staples Center, Magic Johnson has an impromptu press conference quitting the Lakers without telling Jeannie Buss, without telling LeBron James, just him and his wife. He didn't even tell his wife. He's the only person who knew he was going to make this life-altering decision. From a personal things aside, what this does to the Lakers is it's a total embarrassment to the brand. To have what I already thought as a celebrity hire make you look like a fool is as embarrassing as it gets in sports today. I compare this hire of Magic Johnson to what the Knicks did with Phil Jackson. Now, each of these two guys made one good move as an executive. Phil Jackson drafted Kristaps Porzingis, who, by the way, is no longer even a Knick, and Magic Johnson signed LeBron James, and who knows how big of an impact Magic Johnson being the Lakers president had on LeBron James signing with the Lakers. I don't think it was that much of an impact, but I'm going to give him credit because that was what his position was, and he got LeBron James there, I guess. Even if you want to give Magic Johnson credit for doing that thing, that's one move. Let's talk about the moves he's done that were bad since getting there. Trading away D'Angelo Russell, who's an all-star this year and probably comeback player of the year. Okay, maybe it's not getting rid of Russell that I hated at the time. It's who you got instead of Russell. Lonzo Ball, who was just on this parade tour of being the most celebrated athlete of all time before he accomplished anything. Magic Johnson basically didn't do his homework on a player, and he could have had De'Aaron Fox. Now, if you told me De'Aaron Fox is replacing D'Angelo Russell, I think the Lakers would be in the playoffs right about now. Let's talk about another few moves Magic Johnson failed to make. Didn't trade for Paul George. That was the only way you were going to get Paul George, was by trading him, because these star players don't, between you and me, these star players don't want to be known as mercenaries going from team to team. Paul George didn't want to leave the Oklahoma City Thunder after they traded for him, because that would be his third team in 3 years, and that's getting a Dwight Howard level of embarrassment. Star players do not want to become mercenaries who go from team to team. This is an absolute truth that I believe in. LeBron James is the exception, not the rule, because LeBron has won titles. Paul George's stature as an athlete is going to be measured about what he does with the Oklahoma City Thunder and what he did with the Pacers. He doesn't want to be known as a guy who goes from team to team. Kevin Durant, it will be looked at differently because he'll have titles. You can do that when you have titles. When you've accomplished nothing in the postseason, you can't go from team to team like Dwight Howard did, or you become an embarrassment for the league itself. The league does not want these guys going from team to team. The only way the Lakers were ever going to get Paul George was if they traded for him. The same thing with Kawhi Leonard. The only way you were going to get Kawhi Leonard is if you traded for him, and Magic Johnson failed to do that. Let's look at another guy Magic Johnson just lets walk out the door. Julius Randle, who came off of his best season. You're telling me this Lakers team couldn't have used Julius Randle? He was developing into like a mini Draymond Green. He can carry the ball. He's a pretty good player, and they just let him walk out the door because they think they might sign a big free agent. They don't even know. It's this ridiculousness of how the Lakers and the Knicks have been run these last few years, chasing star players. And the getting LeBron James to go to the Lakers, It was the worst thing that could have happened to the Lakers because in their minds, they think a whole parade of superstars is coming and they start to go to fantasy land. That's where Magic Johnson led the Lakers to. Fantasy land with old Paul George and Anthony Davis, and we're going to build the greatest thing ever. It's the worst thing that could have happened to them is getting an aging LeBron James. LeBron James is still by far the best player when healthy in the NBA, but it's the worst thing for the sport when he signs with one of these teams whose organizations are run so terribly that they start to go to fantasy land. They're not thinking with their minds. They're thinking about these weird aspirations of building super teams. It's the worst thing that can happen to these teams when they get these one guy because they're not getting the second guy. Newsflash, people. None of the other top 5 or top 10 or even top 15 NBA players are joining the Lakers anytime soon, especially after this Magic Johnson mess. And another thing that Magic Johnson, the executive, failed to do, he lets Brook Lopez walk out the door, and Brook Lopez has his best season from the three-point line and is on the number 1 team in the NBA. Could the Lakers have used Brook Lopez? Probably. But what did Magic do to fill the void of Julius Randle and Brook Lopez? What is the basic thing you should do if you have LeBron James on your team? Get him shooters. The reason LeBron James has rings is because of the likes of Ray Allen and Kyle Korver and guys who shoot high three-point percentages. Instead, this bozo goes out and signs Michael Beasley, not a great three-point shooter, Rajon Rondo, one of the worst shooters of all time, one of my favorite players, but doesn't fit this Lakers team well enough. If you're going to get Rondo and you're going to get LeBron, surround them with shooters because they're two of the best passers in basketball. Instead, you get Beasley, Lance Stevenson, not a good shooter at all, and nothing. They show no sign of getting any shooting all season long. Brandon Ingram, bad shooter. Lonzo Ball, worst shooter I've ever seen. What are we doing with this team? Oh, by the way, when Magic Johnson was on the Lakers, he traded Lou Williams to the Clippers. That's right. He traded him to the Rockets, and then the Rockets traded him to the Clippers. But still, Lou Williams, you're telling me the Lakers couldn't have used Lou Williams right now? They traded away Lou Williams, Brook Lopez, and Julius Randle, 3 guys who are impact guys because they were star chasing. That's why he's a bad executive. He was just star chasing, and he wasn't putting any building blocks on the Lakers that are going to last. He was just star chasing. That's not what being an executive is. Bob Myers is the best executive in basketball with the Golden State Warriors because he has building blocks on the team. He has young players who are good role players on the team that fit around the superstars. He built the team. Bob Myers didn't go star chasing. Kevin Durant went to the Warriors because he saw that they were a secure and stable team. Something the Lakers clearly are not even close to being. What else did Magic Johnson fail to do with the Lakers? Yeah, he failed to actually tamper the right way. The dummy talks about Giannis with the media, says he's going to train Ben Simmons, and then he talks about how he wants to do this without the Lakers involved at all. He's all about him. He was never about the actual organization. He said he wasn't even tampering for the Lakers. He was just flat out tampering because he's being an idiot. The nonsense of this guy. The Giannis comments were stupid. The Ben Simmons thing was stupid. He wanted to train Ben Simmons for another team. He never acted like an actual employee of a basketball team. This was pure and total nonsense on the part of Magic Johnson. If you're going to tamper, at least do it for the team that you work for. And all this nonsense, all the defenders of Magic Johnson this week, oh, he's not a quitter. What about that talk show? Oh, he quit. What about when he was the head coach of the Lakers? Oh, yeah, he quit. This is clearly a guy who wants to be beloved. I get it. I get all that stuff. Why would Magic Johnson do this in the first place? Why would a 50-year-old become an executive for the first time? All fair points. But guess what? He chose to do it, and he did it poorly all season long. And the Anthony Davis disaster, I'm putting on him. I am putting that entire Anthony Davis saga on him. He's ruined the Lakers and he's ruined the Pelicans because of his tampering. Yes, teams had every right to fear the Lakers for tampering because this is a guy who clearly was trying to tamper. But what the rest of the league didn't realize, he wasn't even tampering for the Lakers. He was just tampering for himself so that he could go on Twitter and congratulate Russell Westbrook and Dwayne Wade and Giannis Antetokounmpo and train Ben Simmons while not doing anything for the Lakers at all. And I understand why he wanted to fire Luke Walton. The Lakers have fired Luke Walton. I understand that. Luke Walton hasn't really worked out for the Lakers, and it would have been a bad idea for him to stay with the Lakers. But the Lakers were not bad because of Luke Walton. The Lakers were bad because of Magic Johnson and his star chasing, which was terrible. You can't be a star chaser if you're not going to end up with a star. LeBron James ended up on his lap, and instead of building a team around LeBron James, he went star chasing for another star instead of building around what he already had. If you're telling me if LeBron James had Julius Randle, Lou Williams, Brook Lopez, and D'Angelo Russell, that's not a better roster that's on the Lakers right now. And those other four guys I just mentioned aren't on the Lakers because of Magic Johnson and his star chasing. I get it. And there's also the report of Wojnarowski saying that Magic Johnson was one of the laziest presidents in basketball. Clearly, he didn't want to be a full-time employee. Clearly, he didn't want to put in the hard work. I understand that. He's Magic Johnson. Who would want to do that? But the problem I'm having is he didn't do anything for the organization. It is a star hire. The Lakers themselves were star chasing for an executive, and now there's talks they want to get back Jerry West and they want to do this. Get somebody outside of the Lakers organization. I'm not mad if Rob Pelinka becomes the man in charge, because at least it's not somebody who you're hiring because he's a star. He's somebody you're hiring because you think he's good at basketball or whatever. That's a better move. I'd rather Rob Pelinka be in charge of the Lakers' overall moves than Magic Johnson, who has done terrible for the Lakers. I think what I most want to talk about with Magic Johnson is that, okay, let's two things that Magic Johnson did that the minute he did it, I thought were really, really stupid. Number one, when he dissed D'Angelo Russell on the way out of the Lakers, he said we need leaders here. Number two, saying that Lonzo Ball's number was going to go into the rafters. Those were all-time idiotic moves that have come back to haunt him in extremely hilarious ways. Number one, Magic Johnson called D'Angelo Russell lacking leadership when the way he goes out with his team, being the president of the organization, he announces he doesn't want to lead them without telling anyone in a more immature fashion than how D'Angelo Russell left the Lakers. That is hilarious. He questioned his leadership when his own leadership is terrible. Magic Johnson failed the Lakers in a way way that's unforgivable. Yes, you can still treat him the way that we treat legends of basketball, but this is an Isaiah Thomas-like move with the Knicks. It's as embarrassing. I'm putting Magic Johnson in the Isaiah Thomas and Phil Jackson category of worst executives ever. This is hilarious that has bounced back in his face so hard. Number 2, let's talk about this. Magic Johnson said Lonzo Ball's numbers are going into the rafters. Lakers fans want Lonzo Ball out of the country at this point. They would rather him be playing in Lithuania with his bozo of a dad. I feel bad for Lonzo Ball. I do. We heralded him as the next guy, and now nobody wants him. I don't think teams would want to trade for him. I don't think there's a lot of value there. He's an okay passer, but the Jason Kidd's comparison was ridiculous from the start. He's not a good scorer. He's one of the worst shooters I've ever seen. He just does nothing for me. Is he an okay defender? Sure. He's not a starter on a basketball team right now. He was being benched for Rajon Rondo. That's just the overall truth. The number 2 pick of the Lakers was being benched for Rajon Rondo. He has health issues. I understand it. He's never been fully healthy. The pressure was put on him and was put on his dad. So I'm going to measure Lonzo Ball the way that people made me measure Lonzo Ball. His name's not going to the Raptors. I don't think he's part of the Lakers' long-term goals. So for that reason, it's a total nonsense what happened with Lonzo Ball, and a lot of the blame to me is going on Magic Johnson. And now a lot of people are saying Lonzo Ball didn't play well because of his stupid shoe that, guess what, he invented. When are we going to start blaming Lonzo Ball for some of the nonsense that's going around him? We're not blaming him for his dad. We're not blaming him for his sneakers. We're not blaming him for his poor play. What the heck are we blaming Lonzo Ball for? This pure and total nonsense. That's a whole nother story. But tell me, when can I finally start to blame Lonzo Ball for something? We're not blaming him because of his shoe. We're not blaming him because he's bad. It's just pure nonsense. People don't want to give up on this Lonzo Ball's the greatest thing ever nonsense. It's never going to happen. He's not going to be an all-star. He's 10 times worse than Ben Simmons is what he is. He's a point guard who can't shoot, that can somewhat pass. And even that, he's inconsistent at. For the last, 3 years he's been on the Lakers? Nada. Zip. Zilch. He's done nothing of relevance since joining the league, and his predecessor, D'Angelo Russell, has become an all-star. If that's not a bad look on Lonzo Ball, I don't know what is. And that, again, is on Magic Johnson. He is on the list of worst executives ever with Phil Jackson and Isaiah Thomas. Now, Isaiah Thomas was bad for a lot longer of a time. Isaiah Thomas, you could at least say, looking back, he put good players on the Knicks. They just didn't fit well together. Jamal Crawford, Zach Randolph, Stephen Marbury for a minute. It was just a bad roster. Magic Johnson didn't even try to build something. He just went star chasing. And yes, you can say Isaiah Thomas did the same thing. And I don't even know what Phil Jackson did. He wasn't even trying to get stars. He was just pissing off his own star in Carmelo Anthony. I don't really even understand what Phil Jackson's motives were with Carmelo Anthony. These three guys are the worst executives of the last decade in the NBA, and it's because they weren't executives. They were a Hall of Fame head coach and 2 Hall of Fame players. When you're trying to hire an executive, hire an actual executive with experience, not somebody within the Laker family or the Knick family or whatever family Isaiah Thomas was with the Knicks. Just stop the nonsense. Isaiah Thomas was also coach, so you can blame him for a lot of that nonsense. I mean, what are we doing here? It's pure and total nonsense what happened with the Lakers. And moving forward, they've lost Magic, which is a good thing, but they've also lost Luke Walton, who we're going to see in Sacramento if he's actually a good head coach or not. And to me, that's going to become fascinating, because the better Luke Walton is with the Sacramento Kings, the more dumb the Lakers are going to look. Because if they hire Tyronn Lue. That's a bad hire. Stop hiring LeBron lackeys. Stop it. Stop. Hire a real head coach. Tyronn Lue, I don't know if he's a good coach. I know he won an NBA Finals, but I'm not really giving him that much credit for that. I don't think it's the right move. I think Monty Williams is a much better hire. I think Monty Williams should be the next head coach of the Lakers, not Tyronn Lue. You should move forward with a guy that maybe Anthony Davis likes. Because I know Anthony Davis would be more inclined to join the Lakers if Monty Williams is the head coach there. In closing, Magic Johnson was a bad executive. It was hilarious how this all went down, and he is never going to live down that moment where he quit on the franchise that made him a star in one of the most embarrassing fashions I've ever seen. He quit the Lakers without telling Jeannie Buss, who is his so-called sister. If that's not a slap in the face to Jeannie Buss and the Lakers, then I don't know what is. The Lakers moving forward have to rely on Rob Pelinka and LeBron James, and they have 3 years to do it. The 3-year window for the Lakers starts right now. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Head to Head Podcast. There will be a new episode of the Head to Head Podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. And check out my other podcast, Pop Culture Spotlight, part of the Chatter Podcast Network. I'm Cam McKinney. Thanks again for listening.